You keep waiting to feel ready. U1T. And the part that S messing you up, ISNT, laziness. It's your addiction to the feeling you think has to show up first. You want motivation like a switch. Mood on, work starts. Mood off. You sit there and plan and research and get your mindset right, like the right inner weather is something you can forecast. There's a reason your motivation dies by Wednesday, and it is not discipline. It's the mechanism. You're trying to trigger action with mood. Like you can't start until your brain blesses the task. So the first day feels great because the feeling is fresh. You begin on energy. Then reality hits. Friction shows up. The task is bigger than the fantasy. Your brain goes, nope, we're the original vibe. And you comply. You call it falling off, but it's just your system doing exactly what you built. Think about it like lighting a campfire. You keep checking for sparks from the sky, but fire is made by friction, not by permission. When there's no spark, you stand there waiting, cold and annoyed, blaming yourself for not being warmer. Meanwhile, the simple truth is right there. You rub the sticks together until the heat arrives. Not the other way around. Most people never learn this because they confuse feeling with fuel. Point 1. 2. That early rush. That adrenaline. It lies to you. It makes starting feel safe, like nothing bad can happen because you feel good right now. But momentum isn't built by comfort. It's built by contact. You touch the work touches back. You get uncomfortable, and then you get better at being uncomfortable. That's the real training. Your brain has a shortcut. If I don't feel it, I can't do it. So every time you wait, you're not resting. You're teaching your mind that waiting equals safety. Then the first time the mood evaporates, you feel betrayed, even though you agreed to the deal. You didn't fall off a plan. You maintain a trigger. Here's what to do today. Pick one task you've been orbiting instead of attacking. Make it small enough that you can't fail at starting. Then set a rule that breaks the spell. You don't wait for motivation, you start for 2 minutes. Immediately. No negotiating. Point 0. 2 minutes is the point. It's short enough to beat your resistance, and honest enough to prove you don't need mood to move. When those 2 minutes are up, your only job is to stop deciding based on feelings. Not forever. Just for today, because the moment you start tying action to mood, you hand your future to your emotions. And you keep losing. You're not stuck because you lack motivation. You're stuck because you're trying to earn it instead of generating it. The next step is where you build the exact loop that keeps momentum alive when the mood isn't. You keep waiting for motivation to arrive, like it's a guest you can't schedule. You keep treating it like permission. But here's the mechanism nobody explains. Your brain thinks motivation is a license to act, not a fuel to create motion. Let me paint it with a story. Imagine you're standing in front of gym door. The sign says, members only. You don't have the card yet, so you linger by the handle, staring at the lock, waiting for that feeling that says, now you're allowed. Then Wednesday shows up, and the feeling isn't there. The door doesn't change. The lock doesn't care. Your body doesn't know you were going to be disciplined. Your mind only knows you were waiting for the green light. Point 1. To that what your motivation drop looks like from the inside. Monday starts as a rush. The brain stamps approved because you're excited, because everything is fresh, because you can still taste progress. Then the brain repeats the stamp on autopilot. Do it when approved. And approval always runs on mood. Tuesday, you still feel enough to glide. Wednesday, the mood shifts. The stamp disappears. Now you feel like you did something wrong, like you failed the plan. But the real failure is simpler. You trained your nervous system to require a feeling before you're real enough to work. Your motivation becomes a permission slip, and permission slips expire. They get lost. They get torn up. They get denied by stress, sleep, weather, and whatever else life throws in your way. Motivation dies by Wednesday, because Wednesday is when the permission system finally proves it's unreliable. The brain notices the mismatch. You promised yourself action would follow mood, and then mood stops showing up. So your mind doesn't blame the weather. It blames you. That's why you feel betrayed instead of simply tired. There's a vivid way to spot it in your own life. Pay attention to what you do when you don't feel like it. If you delay, browse, clean, reorganize, plan, then call it preparation, you're not resting. You're rehearsing the rule. You're telling your brain, safety comes from waiting. And when waiting becomes your strategy, starting feels dangerous. Not because the work is hard, but because your mind thinks you're violating your own agreement. Point 0. Now, and the tough part is this. Motivation was never the engine. It was the signal. And signals are unreliable. Engines are not. The top one treat the work like a switch, not a mood check. They don't ask, do I feel ready? They ask, what is the smallest action that proves readiness exists? That's why they keep going when the feeling fades. In the next part, you're going to learn the exact trigger that rewires this permission slip into a loop your brain can't refuse. Even when Wednesday shows up with no enthusiasm. You don't need a new mindset. You need a new sequence, one that your brain can't sabotage when the mood clock runs out. The top one don't wait for motivation. They treat motivation like a light that tells them the engine is on. The engine is the work. Here's the mechanism. Your mind loves permission systems because they feel safe. I'll start when I feel it. I'll begin once I'm inspired. But safety is the trap. It turns starting into a negotiation, and negotiations always end with delay. So today, you're replacing permission with proof. You're going to do a 10-minute proof of work session. Not a workout, not a deep project. Proof, something small enough that you can't hide behind complexity, and strict enough that you can't escape into prepping. Set a timer for 10 minutes. The rule is simple. During those 10 minutes, you only do the first physical step of the task you've been avoiding. Not research, not organizing, not outlining. The first step, open the document and write the first ugly sentence, or put the ingredients on the counter and start cooking, or lay out the notes and complete one problem from start to finish. One step only. Where your brain says, wait, I need to feel ready, you answer with action anyway. Like you're flipping a switch that ignores the flickering signal. Now the second rule makes it work. You're not allowed to stop once you start. You can slow down. You can make it messy. You can reduce the scope even further, but you cannot pause. If you get stuck, you keep going at the smallest possible pace that still counts as progress. Your job is to keep the chain moving, not to impress yourself. There's a third rule, and it's the one most people skip. After the timer starts, you don't earn breaks. You earn completion. 10 minutes is the cost. When the timer ends, you stop immediately. No bargaining for just 5 more. That matters because it teaches your brain you don't need mood to begin. And you don't need mood to finish. You use structure instead of emotions. Point 1. 10 minutes feels almost ridiculous. Good. That is how you disarm the part of you that thinks you need a perfect state to act. You're training your nervous system to trust outcomes over vibes. Start right now. Choose the task you've been postponing. Decide the first physical step. Then commit to 10 minutes of nonstop motion with no preparation loopholes. When the feeling shows up, great. When it doesn't, even better. You're not waiting anymore. You're collecting evidence that you can start on days that don't cooperate. Point 0. 8. Keep reading what you're about to learn next. Because the next move turns this 10-minute proof into a trigger your mind starts running automatically. Even when Wednesday tries to take your enthusiasm hostage. You don't need a new you. You need evidence. Not a quote. Not a vibe. Evidence. Most people stay stuck because they keep waiting for the part of them that feels confident to show up first. They treat motivation like a permit, like you'll get clearance only after you become a different person. That's backwards. The top one mindset doesn't try to become the kind of person who would do the thing. They collect proof that doing the thing creates the kind of person they've been pretending they are. Here's what your brain is doing right now. It's running a story. If it doesn't feel right, it won't work. That story keeps you from starting, and then it uses the lack of progress as confirmation. It's a locked room. You never see what you could do because you never test it. So your confidence is always theoretical, always delayed, always safe. Evidence breaks that loop. Not later. Not when you're healed. Not when your schedule finally behaves. Evidence happens the moment you stop negotiating. The moment you press play on 10 minutes and refuse to quit because the feeling is late. Every time you complete, your nervous system learns a new pattern. Outcomes come first, emotions follow. Point 0. 9. Think of it like building muscle. You don't get stronger by imagining strength. You get stronger by doing the reps while your body complains. That complaint isn't a stop sign. It's the sound of training. Your mind will resist because it's protecting you from uncertainty, not because you're incapable. Evidence teaches it that uncertainty can be handled. Now pay attention to the hidden reward you're missing. When you start, you create a trail for your future self. You make the next session easier because your brain can reference something real we finished before. That's why the top one doesn't need big speeches. They need small wins that are provable. Every completed 10 minutes becomes a receipt. Point 0. 8. And when you don't do it perfectly good, you're still collecting data. You're learning what progress looks like at your lowest operating level. That's the real skill, not high performance, reliable movement. So here's your move today. Take the task you've been circling like it's dangerous. Decide the smallest physical action that would count as starting. Then do exactly 10 minutes of motion with no preparation loopholes and no bargaining at the end. When the timer ends, you stop. Immediately. That part matters. You're not training yourself to obey a mood. You're training yourself to obey the process. You're not broken. You're just starved for proof. Start proving it. And your confidence, once you arrive like a lightning bolt, it will compound like interest until someday runs out of excuses and your evidence speaks for you.